After getting married, I was on my honeymoon with my husband. In the middle of the night, the cruise ship was in distress due to bad weather. I was pushed to the ground while pregnant, and I begged my husband to save me. Instead, he took his secretary's hand and boarded the rescue boat, which had only 2 remaining seats. He looked at me lying on the ground with disdain in his eyes. "She is strong and will get up by herself." When I heard his words, my heart sank into an ice cellar. After luckily surviving my life, I filed for a divorce. Enzo was furious and tore up the divorce agreement. "Nowadays, all the famous people are having fun outside. Why do you have so much trouble?" I turned around and called the procuratorate. "I want to report my husband." Amid the panicked crowd outside the cruise ship, I immediately saw my husband holding Maeve tightly in his arms and constantly comforting her. Yeah, it's okay. The rescue team is coming soon. I'm here, don't be afraid." He stroked the girl in his arms again and again. Seeing this dazzling scene, I felt like a bucket of cold water was poured on me. From head to toe, I was cold every part of my body. Enzo and I have been in a long-term relationship for 8 years, and he finally agreed to marry me some time ago. After the wedding, we chose a cruise for our honeymoon. I originally wanted to have some time for just the 2 of us, but Enzo said it would be too crowded with people. He invited many friends, including his assistant Maeve. Just now, when the cruise ship was shaking violently, I saw that Enzo, who was sleeping next to me, was gone. Ignoring the danger, I walked barefoot through several floors of the cruise ship just to make sure he was safe. The staff forced me to get out, saying that Enzo must have been moved to a safe place first. At that time I still couldn't believe it. How could Enzo abandon me and go out alone? I didn't expect to see such an ironic scene when I came out. I suppressed my inner uneasiness and walked up to ask Enzo, "Where did you go just now?" When he saw my miserable appearance, he didn't show any concern at all, but frowned in displeasure. Before Enzo could reply, the cruise ship was hit by the waves and began to shake violently again. I lost my balance and was knocked to the ground, while the people around me started to stir due to the sudden huge vibration. My hand was also stepped on. There was a piercing pain in my 10 fingers and blood was flowing from my feet. I desperately covered my stomach with my other hand and cast a hopeful look at Enzo. "It hurts. Save my child." In the midst of chaos, the first rescue ship arrived and I thought I saw hope, but I was in so much pain that I couldn't stand up. And soon the rescue boat was filled with people. Seeing that there were only 2 spots left, Enzo took Maeve's hand and got on the boat without even looking at me, who had fallen behind him, and my good friend who was blessing me 3 hours ago never even looked at me. I squeezed my eyes shut in pain. All my efforts over the years seemed so ridiculous at this moment. When I woke up again, I looked at the white ceiling and realized that I was saved. I struggled to get up and tried to look for the person next to me, but I got a message from the nurse saying that no family members had visited me in the past few days and asked me to go to the front desk to pay the fee. I touched my belly, and with red eyes, I asked the doctor carefully, "My baby?" The moment the doctor shook his head, my tears flowed uncontrollably. I picked up the phone with trembling hands, wanting to call Enzo for comfort, and then I remembered the scene with him and Maeve on the cruise ship. Not long after, the phone was connected, and I spoke in a crying voice, "Enzo, I..." Before he could finish, Enzo interrupted him with an impatient voice, "Where have you been these days? Come home quickly, there is something going on at the company." I smiled bitterly. I had been lying in the hospital for so many days, but Enzo had never paid any attention to me. After returning home in a daze, as soon as I opened the door, Enzo hugged me and said, "Honey, why haven't I seen you for so many days? I missed you so much." I subconsciously avoided his hug. Right in front of my sight was a pair of women's slippers that I had never seen before. There were other people who came to our home during the days I was away. Enzo felt guilty for a moment, but soon a smile appeared on his face again. "What's wrong? Can't I even hug my wife now?" I said calmly. "Why were you holding Maeve while you were on the cruise ship? Why didn't you help me up when I fell to the ground?" Enzo obviously noticed the scar on my hand that hadn't healed yet, but he still said nonchalantly, "That's because I have enough trust in my own wife. You are so much older than Maeve, so you must be more mature and calm in dealing with problems than these young girls who have just entered society." "Wife, Don't be angry. Look what I bought for you." Enzo took out a gift box from the back. I took a look at the gift box in his hand, and it showed obvious signs of having been opened. Sure enough. When Enzo took out a necklace and asked me to put it on it, I felt very uncomfortable. A few days ago, when we were passing through another country on our honeymoon, we saw it in a store window. I acted like a spoiled child and asked Enzo to give it to me, but he pulled me away and said to me, "I'll buy you a better one when we return home. This necklace is too ordinary." Maeve wearing it on a cruise ship. At first I thought it was just a coincidence. It turns out that Enzo didn't think the necklace was ordinary, but he had someone more suitable in mind. "Okay, stop being angry about the past. Accompany me to a dinner party tonight." My thoughts were in a trance. Enzo and I met in college, and we started a company with the original funding I initially raised. I have not rested for a moment in the past 8 years. Except for sleeping, I have been working all the time. I have done every task of the company to the utmost. Just so that we can have a good future. When I first proposed marriage, Enzo said, "The company is just in its infancy. If we don't work hard and get married early, how can we create good conditions for our children in the future?" Later, the company got on track and gradually became a leader in the industry. I also found out that I was pregnant, and only then did Enzo agree to marry me. When he proposed to me, Enzo said that he didn't want to see me work so hard anymore. And he just wanted me to be a good wife at home and raise our children. I thought our relationship was strong enough that we could keep going. He gradually handed over the power of the company and let Enzo take full charge. Enzo also promised me that after giving birth, I could continue to return to the company if I wanted to work. But in some business occasions, my husband and I still attend together. As soon as I got on the passenger seat, I smelled a pungent scent of perfume mixed with the smell of food. I frowned. Enzo opened the car window. "I've been too busy lately and haven't had time to clean the car," I said sarcastically. "Really? But I just clearly saw that the glove box in the car was filled with all kinds of snacks. The makeup box I originally put in there has long been replaced by snacks." The page on the phone is still on the pictures and texts shared on Maeve's short video platform. The backgrounds of the pictures include morning, noon, and early morning. And the locations are even abroad. Caption: "My husband drives and I eat." I didn't dare to think about it too much. Whether Enzo once told me that he only took Maeve with him when he went on business trips. "Why are you so suspicious today?" Maeve didn't have breakfast that day, and I was afraid she didn't have the energy. So I let her have some breakfast in the car. Girls nowadays are not like you, enjoying themselves at home all day long. My heart seemed to be grasped by a huge hand, making it hard for me to breathe. Eating in the car is obviously just a small matter, but this behavior was not allowed in the past. When I first started my business, I would drink with clients until the early hours of the morning and beg Enzo to pick me up. When we passed by a convenience store at night, I told him that I had been drinking all night and my stomach was feeling uncomfortable, so I wanted to go in and buy something to fill my stomach. Enzo was impatient. "Don't eat in the car and make my car dirty. If you want to eat, take a taxi home." He ignored my physical condition and drove all the way home at full speed. I vomited in the bathroom all night that night, but Enzo looked down on me and moved me to the guest room without showing any concern. Enzo and I just walked into the banquet hall. Maeve walked over slowly in a deep V-red dress. Enzo next to me was staring with his eyes wide open. Enzo's friend recognized Maeve as Enzo's secretary and teased Maeve. "Boss Jew really has good taste. We are so envious of such a young and beautiful secretary. It's a waste of talent to just be a secretary. I'm afraid even Mr. Jew's wife wasn't this attractive when she was young. Come, I'll toast you a glass." When I heard what they said, I just smiled awkwardly. But Enzo ignored me beside him, put his arm around Maeve, drank the wine for Maeve, and said with a doting look, "The little girl is delicate, she can't be as rough as us. I toast to you on her behalf." When the man saw that Maeve didn't drink, he turned his attention to me and said, "Sister-in-law, come here, I'll toast you a glass." When I had just had a miscarriage and was still weak, I thought about refusing. Seeing that I didn't respond, Enzo frowned and raised his voice. Drinking a glass of wine and hesitating for a while. "Can it cost you your life? I never joke about my body." I turned down Enzo's friend with a slightly apologetic tone. Sorry, I'm not feeling well today. Enzo pulled me aside angrily and scolded me. Didn't I bring you here to play today? How come you don't know how to socialize? If you don't want to socialize, just get out of the way and don't spoil my fun around me. Maeve's eyes were red as she took Enzo's hand. Sister GWN is just used to being a housewife and is not very adaptable to these social occasions. I will just accompany you to socialize. As she said this, she looked at me with a sweet smile, as if to claim her sovereignty. Sister GWN, I am Aheng's female companion for work. You shouldn't mind, right? Enzo patted Maeve's head and said, why should she mind? You are so capable and have created so much value for our company. She eats and uses my things every day. Grievance and anger welled up in my heart. I lowered my eyelashes to hide the emotions surging in my eyes and sneered. Of course I can't be as resourceful as Miss Jiang. Just as I finished speaking, something unexpected happened at the dinner party, and Maeve looked behind me with a look of horror. The tall champagne tower was accidentally knocked over by a passing waiter and fell straight towards Maeve and me. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Be careful." Bang! With a loud bang, the champagne tower collapsed, and because I had my back to it, I didn't react in time and was knocked to the ground heavily. Glass fragments flew everywhere, and blood kept flowing down her ankles and arms, staining the white dress she was wearing red. Maeve was immediately pulled into Enzo's arms and started crying because of the huge change. Yeah, are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? Someone advised Enzo to take care of my wound first. I looked seriously injured. Enzo yelled at her. GWN is thick-skinned. How can he be hurt? Enzo anxiously checked Maeve's wounds, but finally, he was still worried. So he picked her up as a princess and drove her to the hospital. I was barely helped up by the waiter beside me, and I stumbled to the hospital by myself in a taxi. The wound continued to hurt, but I felt that my heart hurt 100 times or 1,000 times more than the wound. The doctor had just finished giving me a dozen stitches and I left the clinic with the medicine. In the hospital corridor, I heard people whispering. Why was there such a big noise just now? What happened? Don't tell me. I heard that Mr. Ju came with his wife. His wife kept crying, and the doctor couldn't find anything. Mr. Ju got furious and asked for a multidisciplinary consultation. Rich people nowadays are really idle and have nothing to do every day, wasting public resources. Hospitals are places that save lives. I guess by the time the doctor arrives, his wife's wounds will have healed. Hearing this, I smiled sarcastically, but when I looked up, I saw someone coming towards me. Enzo held Maeve's hand, and in his other hand he held only a small bag of ointment. Maeve was wearing Enzo's coat, with tears in her eyes, and she looked extremely pitiful. Suddenly, I remembered that when I was injured in college, Enzo also led me out of the infirmary in the same way, and on the way he kept reminding me not to be so reckless in the future. And the Enzo in front of me is no longer the boy who looked at me with eyes full of love. Maeve also saw me, and couldn't hide the pride on her face. I'm sorry, Sister G. Aheng was worried that I was still young and that scars would not look good, so he drove me to the hospital for a checkup and forgot about you. I really envy you for having a husband who treats his juniors so well. I really hope I can find one in the future. There was a tone of boasting in her words. Enzo saw that my hands and feet were all stitched. A rare hint of guilt appeared on his face. But I don't care about these anymore. Anyway, no matter what happens, my husband's first choice will not be me. I can't think of any reason for such a marriage to continue to exist. I should have seen it clearly earlier. Instead of wasting years with him and hurting myself in the end, I held back the bitterness in my heart. Took off the ring on my hand, and threw it into the hospital trash can. Enzo, let's get a divorce. Maeve's red eyes flashed with a hint of pride. Enzo took a big step forward in disbelief, and after seeing my wound clearly, he said, GWN, why are you throwing a tantrum again? Do you think imitating a little girl's way of acting pitiful and coquettish will work on me? Don't you see how old you are? After all these years, Enzo still treats me like this, even now. He still thinks I'm joking with him and that I really can't live without him. After we get married, why don't you just stay at home and let me support you? Why do you have to be jealous? If you leave me, who else do you think will want you? I exploded all of a sudden. venting all my previous anger and grievances. "I'm not kidding you. Divorcing me is exactly what you want, isn't it? If you like Maeve, just marry her. Why do you keep dragging it out with me? I just quit the company. I'm not dead. How did the company grow over the years? Don't you know, you keep saying that you supported me, but didn't I pay any price?" Enzo's expression froze, and a hint of panic flashed in his eyes. "We've only been married for less than half a year. How do you want people to view us? What do you want to do with the baby you're pregnant with? Do you want him to be born without a father?" "Yeah, we've only been married for 2 months and Enzo can do this to me over and over again." It was as if all the love shown before was fake. Enzo was a little mad and pushed Maeve, who was trying to come forward, back. His scarlet eyes stared straight at me. "Then those 8 years I was dating don't count. You obviously love me so much. You've paid so much to marry me. How could you bear to divorce me?" It turns out that Enzo also knows about my efforts. I thought he couldn't see it. Otherwise, why would he be so cruel to me time and time again? I held back my tears and choked up as I said, "Just think of it as feeding the dog." Enzo held my hand tightly. "GWN, you are injured and a little emotional now. Stop talking in anger. Let's go home and have a good rest." I was unable to break free from him and had no choice but to let Enzo take me home. Maeve tried to catch up. Enzo yelled at her. "Get lost and do your job," he repeated in my ear. "If you don't like Maeve, I will fire her and you will never have to see her again." I didn't answer, just sneered. "Maeve dies. Will there be no second Maeve? I won't fool myself anymore." After turning off the lights and lying on the bed, I felt a burning pain all over my body. I just came back from the hospital this morning and went again in the evening, and got a few more wounds. Enzo's knocks on the door continued to be heard from outside. "Honey, please don't be angry. I am determined to divorce Enzo, but I want to take back all the rights that belong to me." As I was thinking, probably because I was too tired, I fell into a deep sleep. Late at night, I was awakened by the heat of my own body. Just as I was about to sit up, I found a fever-reducing patch on my forehead. The bedroom door was also open, and there was a cup of warm water and antipyretic medicine on the cabinet beside the bed. There are only 2 people in the family, so it is obvious who did it. I closed my eyes and smiled bitterly. My throat was extremely dry and I couldn't help but cough violently. Enzo heard the noise. He rushed into the room and put his hand close to my forehead. "Wanwan, are you still feeling uncomfortable?" He handed the medicine to my mouth and wanted to feed me antipyretic medicine. I pushed his hand away and took the medicine myself. Enzo looked hurt, but he still helped me cover the quilt. "Are you hungry? You didn't eat anything tonight, so I made some porridge for you." Enzo cooked for me was when we were dating in college. Since we graduated and started working together in the company, no matter how much I begged him to cook for me, he always refused because he was busy with work. But he said he couldn't get used to eating outside food and asked me to cook him 3 meals a day. When I am too busy, he and his mother will scold me together. How can a wife not be able to take care of her family because of work? It was as if he had changed his face. He was yelling at me and saying I was being pretentious just a few hours ago. I sighed deeply. "Enzo, aren't you tired of pretending?" Enzo pursed his lips and ignored my words. "Wife, please eat some. Don't hurt the baby. Didn't you say before that the baby can only be healthy if the mother is healthy?" I got out of bed, took out the hospital report from the drawer and threw it at Enzo. My voice was shaking. "Child, how dare you mention a child? When you saw me falling to the ground and begging for help on the cruise ship, why didn't you think about the children? Why didn't you want a child when I was knocked to the ground by the champagne tower?" After reading the report, Enzo's face turned pale. "How could it be?" I thought. "Why do you think I've been taking care of your family like a nanny for all these years? So you're not afraid of hardship, right? Or do you think that I've been injured enough and it's just a fall? Which is not worth mentioning in your eyes." Thinking about what I had been through, I burst into tears. My love for Enzo disappeared long ago after he belittled me time and time again. Enzo held me in his arms and said in a tearful voice, "Wanwan, I'm sorry, it's my fault, it doesn't matter. We are still young and we can have another child. It's this child who is unlucky. I won't make those mistakes again." I closed my eyes, turned over and lay down with my back to Enzo. I really didn't have the energy to argue with him anymore. There is no need to argue with him anymore. The next morning, Enzo bought breakfast early. It was from one of my favorite breakfast restaurants. There was also a bouquet of flowers on the table, the same brand as the one Maeve had posted. Even the style is not new. Enzo saw me coming out of the shower. He pulled out a chair and asked me to sit down. Honey, I took a special leave today to accompany you. I'll take you to our favorite restaurant at noon. This trick can only fool little girls. I smiled sarcastically and told him what Enzo had said to me. Do you think learning from the young man's tricks to create some cheap romance will work for me? Don't you see how old you are? Enzo was exposed by me. His face darkened for a moment, but he suppressed his anger and put the breakfast into my bowl. I picked the food away and reminded him, I have to go back to the company today. You can take a day off. Enzo heard that I was going back to the company. He became anxious. Wife, you just lost your child and your body is still fragile. Just leave the company's affairs to me. I ignored him and went straight to the company, and Enzo followed me. I have contributed much more to this company than Enzo, both financially and physically. The equity ratio is naturally higher than Enzo. When we signed the prenuptial agreement, Enzo asked me many times to transfer some of my shares to him so that he could better exercise the rights of the company. I refused them all just to leave myself a way out. As soon as I arrived at the company, I notified all departments to hold a meeting. Maeve heard my task. As a secretary, she did not carry it out immediately, but instead complained in the office, "You haven't been back for such a long time. It's a bit inappropriate to suddenly call all departments to hold a meeting. Besides, I'm Ah Hung's secretary." She was probably spoiled by Enzo to the point of being lawless and completely indifferent to the occasion. In the final analysis, she is relying on her youth and good looks to get the favor of her boss, not knowing that there will always be people younger and better than her out there. I sat in my office chair and looked at her with amusement. Are you the boss or am I the boss? If you don't want to work, you can get out of the company. Maeve's eyes instantly turned red after I scolded her. Enzo couldn't sit still anymore and came over to persuade me. Why are you being so mean to a little girl? She doesn't understand anything about the company. I glanced at them both and called the head of HR in. Our company doesn't keep useless people. If you don't know anything, you should leave the company early and make room for talented people. I'm not a philanthropist. The head of the Human Resources Department was a shrewd man and understood what had happened immediately. Besides, Maeve had been aggressive in the company for a long time and was almost like the boss's wife. Understood. I will prepare her resignation procedures immediately. Maeve looked at Enzo with tearful eyes, wanting him to stand up and help her. Enzo stood there hesitating for a moment, then saw Maeve running out of the office crying and followed her. I watched their show with an expressionless face and went to the meeting room. The best is yet to come. Since you are so in love, I will help you. The main purpose of the meeting is to have each department report to me on their recent work. During my absence, the company's performance declined significantly, mostly due to Enzo's decisions. The company's cash flow also had problems, and it even delayed paying its employees' salaries last month. The people below had long been dissatisfied with Enzo's management. Logically, Enzo should have attended this meeting, but more than 10 minutes had passed and Enzo still hadn't come in. Although he hadn't arrived yet, his voice echoed throughout the conference room. The research team had just clicked on the real-time product operation in the exhibition room when they suddenly heard a moaning sound. The reporter tried to turn it off in a panic, but the source was still playing. All the senior executives looked at each other and then lowered their heads. Maeve complained in a coquettish voice, "Don't be so rough. Do you feel better when you do it with me?" The noise in the conference room became more and more intense. Maeve's tone was tearful and her voice was trembling slightly. "When are you going to divorce her? You didn't even stand by me in the office just now. Do you still love me?" Enzo panted and comforted her. "Don't worry. I'm just coaxing her temporarily. After I get all the shares of the company, I will definitely let you be the boss's wife. That's more like it." The members of the scientific research team were frightened to the point of turning pale, and they looked at me with eyes that indicated they were ready to die. No one would have thought that the company's boss and secretary would do these things in the exhibition room while the company was holding a high-level meeting. After listening to it, I didn't feel any emotional ups and downs. I calmly asked them to save the video and send it to me. This is solid evidence that Enzo is cheating on his wife. From the moment I filed for divorce, Enzo's attitude toward me changed drastically, and I knew he was planning on my shares. The second half of the meeting was able to proceed with some difficulty. There are many gossips in the company, and such gossip quickly spread throughout the company. Enzo and Maeve pretended nothing happened. Everyone looked at them strangely. It wasn't until Enzo came to my office to plead for Maeve and asked me not to fire her, and I replayed the exciting meeting in the conference room for him, that he understood what had happened. Enzo fell onto the sofa, then stood up trembling and walked to me. Her tone was filled with anger. Wanwan, listen to my explanation. It was Maeve who seduced me first. I know that I did something wrong, but we still have a chance to turn things around, right? Everything I said was false. I was confused for a moment. Wanwan, can you please forgive me? I ignored him and lowered my head to scroll through my phone. My secretary Jiang Qing quickly handed me the newly completed divorce agreement. As early as when I just returned to the company, I found that most of the employees I had previously valued had been transferred or fired. When I was about to leave the company, I clearly told Enzo to reuse Jiang Qing. I didn't expect that in return he would fire Jiang Qing. Jiang Qing didn't say a word because she was worried that it would affect my pregnancy. Rage welled up in my heart, and I threw the divorce agreement at Enzo with all my might. At this point, are you still going to continue to perform? If you are still a man, then sign this divorce agreement. Enzo picked up the divorce agreement on the ground with a gloomy face. The more he looked at her, the deeper his frown deepened, and he said angrily, I will not agree to a divorce. Enzo started to discuss the conditions with me. Unless you transfer 10% of your shares to me and transfer the house we live in now to my name. I laughed at his wishful thinking and said, then we can only meet in court. Enzo tore the divorce agreement into pieces and looked at me with a hurt face. Wanwan, do you have to be so heartless? Without me all these years, would our company have been able to get to where it is today, if we divorce? It will have a huge impact on the company's profits. You are such a selfish person. Every successful man in the business world has had an affair. Why are you the only one who has such a big reaction? He held my hand tightly. Maeve is just a secretary. She can never threaten your position. I was shocked by Enzo's shamelessness and asked Jiang Qing to kick him out of the office. I feel sick if I look at him for any longer than a second. Ever since Enzo and Maeve's shady dealings were exposed, Maeve has left the company. As for Enzo, he didn't have an easy time in the company either. Although everyone was restrained in their attention due to his position, rumors about him still spread like wildfire in private. He still didn't want to divorce me, so I had to take legal action against Enzo. Enzo and I have officially separated. But we still cannot avoid business exchanges in the same company. On this day, Enzo went crazy for some unknown reason. When he came into my office, I thought he was bringing me a contract for a new company project, but when I opened it, it turned out to be a marital singleness agreement. When I saw the terms in it, I was really amused. My attitude towards marriage has always been to require absolute loyalty from both parties, and there is no way I would sign this agreement. He raised his confident face and threatened me. Wanwan, withdraw the lawsuit. You know that you have been away from the company for a while, and the legal department has changed a lot. I have a top team of lawyers, and you can't beat me. There are very few top lawyers in the industry willing to get involved in this mess. Why bother to hurt the relationship between husband and wife? I threw the agreement into the trash can beside me and looked at him with a half smile. We'll see. In Enzo's mind, women should be men's accessories. No matter what achievements I made in the past, Enzo would only look down on me for relying on luck. When I talked about the next project, he even suspected that I was using my body to gain benefits, without the filter I put through for him. It seems that his vision is always so narrow. That day, my attorney Senta Chuan and I were discussing the details of the court hearing in the coffee shop downstairs from the company. As Enzo said, the people provided to me by the company's legal department were all newly recruited people who were completely incomparable to those lawyers who had fought many cases, so I contacted Senta Chuan, a highly regarded lawyer in the industry. When I first met Senta Chuan, He had just started a law firm in partnership with others, but they had problems with funding. At that time, I thought he would have a bright future, so I invested in him in my personal capacity. At that time, I was still young and in love with Enzo, and I even joked that I was afraid that I would never need Senta Chuan to file a divorce lawsuit in this life. I didn't expect that love would deteriorate so quickly. A few days ago, Enzo tried to transfer the couple's joint property, and wanted to leave a way out for himself by going into debt, so that I would not only not get any property but also suffer losses. I had just returned to take over the company and was extremely busy. Fortunately, Yu Chuan discovered it in time, otherwise Enzo would have taken advantage of it. After reading the document Senta Chuan handed me, I asked, "How confident are you?" Senta Chuan answered me without hesitation, 100%. When have I ever lost to such a scumbag, Miss G? Do you not believe in your own judgment or me? Senta Chuan and I looked at each other knowingly and smiled at each other. Before leaving, we hugged each other politely as we hadn't seen each other for so many years. This scene happened to be seen by Enzo, who had just come in. He pushed Senta Chuan away angrily and yelled at me, "GWN, you are a married woman, and we haven't divorced yet. Do you still have the shame to do this in public?" After saying sorry to Senta Chuan, I looked at Enzo sideways. "Let's not talk about what I didn't do today. Even if I did something, you are the least qualified to say this." Enzo didn't come in alone, he was holding Maeve's hand. Senta Chuan sarcastically said, "You are really lenient with yourself and strict with others." Enzo looked unhappy, let go of Maeve's hand and clenched his fist tightly. At this moment, Maeve jumped out and spoke softly, her voice sounding greasy, as if too much saccharine was added. "You are meeting men outside. So why do you have the right to unite the entire company to blame us?" I rolled my eyes and said, "Miss Jiang, you can't assume that all women in the world are the same as you just because your mind is full of men." Maeve didn't think there was anything wrong with what I said and even started to show off. "That's because you don't have the ability to keep a man, and you're jealous of me." It was the time when people were getting off work, so the cafe was crowded. When they saw Maeve and Enzo, the popular couple, they all stopped and looked at them secretly. Enzo naturally couldn't stand it. This damaged his image as a chauvinist. He pushed Maeve away and yelled, "Maeve, have you had enough of this?" Maeve was thrown onto the table and started crying again, but I didn't want to be a joke in the company anymore, so I left early with Senta Chuan. Soon the court date arrived. Enzo, who was originally confident, was defeated after Senta Chuan produced a series of evidence. He probably thought his water flow was very secretive. As early as a year ago, when Maeve was still in college, the two met Enzo because he went to her school to give a speech. Then, large sums of money were transferred from Enzo's personal account to Maeve's bank card over the course of a year. Enzo also used our joint property to buy a house and a car for Maeve. With Maeve's education level and academic qualifications, it was impossible for her to enter our company. She was arranged by Enzo. That day I asked the company staff to send me the surveillance video on the spot, and no matter how Enzo deleted it, it was of no use. And I had already saved the chat records of his affair with Maeve that night when he came back from the hospital. In the end, Enzo's lawyer's explanations became increasingly vague, and he was even stuck in the dilemma of proving himself. In addition to the necessary property division, Maeve also needs to return to me the marital property that Enzo transferred to her. Her face was pale and she could only keep begging Enzo to help her. But Enzo is in trouble now. So considering our friendship over the years, I gave him a big gift. Enzo received a call just after he left the court. It seemed that the news had leaked and someone had told him in advance. Enzo is now extremely panicked. He stood at the entrance of the court, and after watching Senta Chuan and I come down the stairs, he took a big step forward and asked me, "Is it you?" I smiled brightly. "Do you like this gift?" As early as when I discovered that the company had problems with its capital chain, I sent people to investigate secretly. Over the past few months, Enzo has set up a shell subsidiary overseas and has continuously transferred the company's funds overseas to evade regulation. He also ambitiously cooperated with foreign companies to forge invoices. Enzo also illegally invested in multiple projects with some of his business partners to make illicit income. He crossed the country's red line to do business and ignored the country's laws and regulations. Any one of the charges would leave him with no chance of recovery. Enzo tried to escape, but it was obviously too late. By the time I finished saying that, the procuratorate had already sent people to arrest him. The next moment, he was handcuffed. Enzo looked at me with deep hatred in his eyes, but I only noticed that the sun was exceptionally bright today. He struggled desperately, his eyes red, and he yelled to himself over and over again, "I didn't do it. Why did you arrest me? I want to see my lawyer." And the lawyer who had just defended him had secretly run away at some point. Enzo was arrested. The company could not avoid problems with its brand reputation and finances. Some employees who helped Enzo commit fraud were also arrested and investigated, including Maeve. Maeve was deceived by Enzo into signing multiple contracts, and the illegal income was transferred to her overseas bank card. At first, she was complacent and thought that Enzo loved her, which was why he asked her to sign such an important document and transferred so much money to her. She firmly believed that where a man's money is, his love is there, but little did she know that Enzo put her in the most dangerous situation. There was a lot of personnel changes in the company. But fortunately I had made preparations in advance and was able to adjust job vacancies and fill funding gaps in a timely manner. Everything is moving in a good direction.